Welcome back to International Relations 101. I'm William Spaniel. Today's topic is counterterrorism as a collective action problem. In past lectures, we've talked about what a collective action problem is. These are essentially large-scale prisoner's dilemmas with tons and tons of players. Each player can either take a cooperative action or an uncooperative action. If you take the cooperative action, then you might generate a positive externality for everyone else. Meanwhile, if you take the uncooperative action, you might impose a negative externality on everyone else. The reason that these are collective action problems is that the incentives are structured such that it is costly to produce the positive externality and it is free or cheap to produce the negative externality. And as a result, you have lots and lots of individuals choosing the uncooperative action and great inefficiency, where everyone would be better off if everyone would commit to taking the cooperative action instead. As it turns out, there is this sort of collective action problem in counterterrorism, and I want to explore that now. Broadly speaking, there are a couple of different types of counterterrorism operations. One type is offensive. These are strategies designed to root terrorism out at its source, so that you are taking the fight to the terrorists and making sure that they are no longer around to commit any attacks. This was, as an example, the central strategy behind the war in Afghanistan. Following the September 11th attacks, the United States invaded Afghanistan to try to destroy al-Qaeda and prevent al-Qaeda from conducting any more terrorist attacks. This is also the type of operation that's been used against the Islamic State. If you destroy the Islamic State, again, there will not be a group around to commit terrorist attacks afterward. On the opposite end of the spectrum, you have defensive measures. Rather than take the fight to terrorist organizations, you instead anticipate where terrorist organizations may commit attacks and commit resources to either mitigating the damage of those attacks or stopping those attacks entirely. Airport screenings are a perfect example of this. They're not going to destroy terrorist organizations, but they may stop terrorist organizations from being able to hijack planes. You could also increase border security by having more patrols looking for agents coming into the country to commit attacks. And you could also install barricades to prevent vehicles from being able to run into crowds or buildings or that sort of thing. Now that you have an idea of what those two strategies look like, I have a couple of questions for you. First, what are the externalities of offensive counterterrorism? And second, what are the externalities of defensive counterterrorism? I want you to stop for a moment and think about those two questions. And as you're formulating your answers, I want you to focus on international terrorism, groups that are trying to commit attacks against multiple different states, not just a single group resisting a single country. International terrorism instead. Let's first talk about defensive operations. The more you spend on defense, the more you weaken attacks against your particular country. And that's good for you. But this actually imposes a negative externality on others. It makes attacks look relatively more attractive against other countries because you have installed the defensive measures, and perhaps the other country has not. Thinking of this in terms of a collective action problem, because counter-terrorists do not internalize the externality imposed on other states, we would conclude that defensive operations are overprovided. States are spending too much money on defensive operations. What about offensive operations? Well, an offensive operation weakens groups regardless of where those groups will attack next. That's because the offensive operation might destroy the group or enfeeble it to the point where it can't conduct attacks as effectively as it could before. This is benefiting the whole. However, the blowback costs of an operation are paid by those that are engaged in the counterterrorism response. If the United States, for example, conducts a raid against a terrorist group, that terrorist group is going to become more angry at the United States and more inclined to attack the United States as opposed to other countries. Again, thinking in terms of a collective action problem, Because counterterrorists do not internalize all of the benefits of these offensive operations, they're diffuse across many different states, but they do suffer all of the costs, offensive operations are underprovided by collective action problem theory. And where we do see offensive operations being conducted, they tend to be done by international institutions that are designed to govern this process to make sure that each state is pulling its weight, and so that the states can collectively do better than what they would be doing if they were only acting in individual best interests. That wraps up this lecture. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you next time. Take care.